Distracted driving is A. Very uncommon. B. Extremely risky behavior. C. Nothing to be concerned about. D. No less safe than driving under any other conditions. B. Extremely risky behavior. Distracted driving is extremely risky behavior that puts not only you and your passengers in danger, but also endangers pedestrians, bicyclists, and other motorists sharing the road. Focused attention on driving helps to prevent crashes. When you see this black and yellow sign, it means A. The road to the right is for one-way traffic only. B. That due to upcoming roadwork, there is a detour to the right. C. Slow down because the road ahead changes direction at an extreme angle. D. There is a crossroad to your right. C. Slow down because the road ahead changes direction at an extreme angle. This sign indicates that the road ahead changes direction at an extreme angle, in this case, to the right. Before you reach such an extreme curve, you should slow down as much as you would when making a turn at an intersection. While backing, you should A. Rely only on your mirrors. B. Flash your lights. C. Open your door to see if it is safe to proceed. D. Turn your head and look through the rear window. D. Turn your head and look through the rear window. When intending to back up, always check behind your vehicle before getting in. Children and small objects are difficult to see from the driver's seat. While backing, turn your head so you can see through the rear window. Do not depend only on your mirrors or sensors. Pennant-shaped signs indicate A. School zones. B. No passing zones. C. Speed limits. D. Railroad crossings. B. No passing zones. Pennant-shaped signs usually indicate no passing zones. Text will also be on the sign to confirm that it is a no passing zone.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
You are driving up a hill and are approaching a heavy truck from the rear. You should know that A. The truck may be traveling at a speed slower than the posted speed limit. B. You may not be able to safely pass the truck. C. You may not be able to legally pass the truck. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Drivers must be aware that large vehicles often travel at a speed slower than the posted speed limit, especially when driving on an incline, and should use caution when approaching a large vehicle from the rear. When on a hill with limited visibility, it is unlawful to pass another vehicle. You are involved in an accident and another person is injured. You should A. Move the injured away from the scene immediately. B. Always leave the injured where they are. C. Not move the injured unnecessarily. Keep the injured warm and administer first aid. D. Stay away from the injured. C. Not move the injured unnecessarily. Keep the injured warm and administer first aid. After an accident, do not move the injured unnecessarily. Unskilled handling can make serious injuries out of minor ones. Keep the injured warm until skilled help arrives. If there is severe bleeding, attempt to stop the flow of blood with direct pressure. To prepare for anything coming up on the road ahead, you should A. Continually scan the entire road and all roadsides. B. Stare straight ahead at all times. C. Drive with your left foot resting lightly on the brake pedal. D. Maintain focus toward the middle of the road. A. Continually scan the entire road and all roadsides. Your ability to handle dangerous traffic situations depends largely on searching for and identifying problems before meeting them. Looking far ahead of your vehicle does not mean you should simply stare at the center of the road. You need to continually scan the entire road, including the sides of the road. This road sign means: A. Your current roadway ends ahead. B. You must bear either right or left. C. A four-way intersection is ahead. D. A road joins from the right. B. You must bear either right or left. This sign indicates that there is a Y intersection ahead. You must bear either to the right or to the left. Driving significantly under the speed limit is: A. Illegal. B. Smart. C. Safe. D. Optional. A. Illegal. Drivers who drive far slower than the normal flow of traffic cause a great hazard. They often block those behind them, making other drivers jump from lane to lane. It is against the law to drive at a speed so slow that you hold up the normal traffic flow. An arrow painted on the pavement means: A. Drivers in the proper lane may make the movement indicated by the arrow, if they choose to do so. B. Drivers in the proper lane must make the movement indicated by the arrow, but only if traffic lights are not working. C. Drivers in the proper lane must always come to a complete stop before making the movement indicated by the arrow. D. Drivers in the proper lane must make the movement indicated by the arrow while following directions indicated by traffic signals. D. Drivers in the proper lane must make the movement indicated by the arrow while following directions indicated by traffic signals. An arrow painted on the pavement within a traffic lane indicates that drivers in the lane must make the movement indicated by the arrow. Drivers should follow directions given by any traffic signs or signals before proceeding in the direction indicated by the arrow. It is illegal for a person 21 years of age or older to drive with a minimum blood alcohol concentration (BAC) of A. 0.05%, B. 0.08%, C. 0.02%, D. 0.1%, B. 0.08%. For drivers age 21 or older, it is illegal to operate a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol concentration (BAC) of 0.08% or higher. Driving while under the influence of alcohol is not only illegal, but dangerous. This sign means: A. Slow down if an emergency vehicle is approaching. B. Look both ways as you cross the intersection. C. Always come to a full stop at the intersection. D. Slow down and be prepared to stop if necessary. D. Slow down and be prepared to stop if necessary. Decrease your speed as you approach an intersection with a yield sign. Prepare to stop and yield the right of way to vehicles and pedestrians in the intersection or crossroad. You must come to a full stop at a yield sign if traffic conditions require it. This road sign means: A. Parking spaces are reserved for people with disabled parking permits. B. A circular intersection is ahead. C. Traffic in the lane must turn in the direction of the arrow. D. Lanes are reserved for buses and vehicles with a driver and one or more passengers. A. Parking spaces are reserved for people with disabled parking permits. This sign marks parking spaces that are reserved for people with disabled parking permits. A driver entering interstate traffic from an entrance or acceleration ramp. A. Should yield to drivers already on the interstate. B. Has the right of way. C. May force their way into traffic. D. Can assume that other drivers will change lanes to make room. A. Should yield to drivers already on the interstate. If you are on an entrance or acceleration ramp and are entering interstate traffic, you should yield to drivers already on the interstate highway. Merge safely into traffic when you are able to do so. If you want to get off the freeway but you have missed your exit, you should A. Go to the next exit. B. Make a U-turn through the median. C. Pull onto the shoulder and back your car to the exit. D. Flag down a police officer for an escort back to your exit. A. Go to the next exit. If you miss your exit, you should take the next exit. Do not stop or back up on the highway, swerve across multiple lanes to try to make the exit at the last second, or cross over the median to turn around. All of these maneuvers are illegal and extremely dangerous. Emergency vehicles. A. Have the right of way when using sirens, horns, and/or flashing lights. B. May use a loudspeaker to give instructions. C. May follow each other. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. You must yield the right of way to police cars, fire engines, ambulances, or any other emergency vehicles using a siren or air horn and a red or blue flashing light. Follow any instructions given over the emergency vehicle's loudspeakers. Emergency vehicles often follow each other, so you should proceed only when you are certain the way is clear. This sign means A. 4-lane traffic ahead. B. Divided highway ahead. C. 2-way traffic ahead. D. Intersection ahead. C. 2-way traffic ahead. This sign warns of 2-way traffic ahead. A red arrow displayed on a traffic light means that A. A driver must proceed slowly through the intersection. B. A driver must stop and then proceed when the way is clear. C. A driver must stop and then proceed when the signal changes to a green light or green arrow. D. A driver may turn in the direction that the red arrow is pointing. C. A driver must stop and then proceed when the signal changes to a green light or green arrow. Unless a posted sign indicates otherwise, a traffic signal displaying a red arrow means that drivers must come to a full stop and remain stopped until a green light or green arrow appears. You notice that the driver in the vehicle ahead of you is driving with one hand and talking to a passenger. You should A. Give the vehicle extra space. B. Know that the driver in the vehicle ahead is reducing their safety margin by being an inattentive driver. C. Avoid following the driver's example. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Do not become distracted by looking at passengers, attempting to find something in your vehicle, looking at reading material, sightseeing, or daydreaming while driving. If a driver near you seems distracted, allow them extra space because the risk of an accident is increased by their inattentiveness. When changing lanes on a highway, you should A. Signal a lane change. B. Check your rearview and outside mirrors. C. Check your blind spot by glancing over your shoulder. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Anytime you want to change lanes, you should properly signal your intentions well in advance, check your mirrors, and check your blind spot. You can check your blind spot by glancing over your shoulder in the direction that you plan to move. When parking uphill next to a curb, set the parking brake and A. Keep the rear tires against the curb. B. Keep the front tires straight ahead. C. Turn your steering wheel away from the curb. D. Turn your steering wheel toward the curb. C. Turn your steering wheel away from the curb. When parking facing uphill on a street that has a curb, set your parking brake and turn your steering wheel away from the curb. This way, if your vehicle starts to roll, it will roll into the curb. It is best to keep a space cushion. A. Only in back of your vehicle. B. Only on the left and right sides of your vehicle. C. Only in front of the vehicle. D. On all sides of the vehicle. D. On all sides of the vehicle. To ensure that you will have time to react to hazards on the roadway, it is best to keep a cushion of space on all sides of your vehicle. Do not crowd vehicles to your left and right sides. This sign means A. A left curve is ahead. B. A series of curves is ahead. C. An S-curve is ahead. D. The road will be slippery when wet. D. The road will be slippery when wet. This sign warns that especially slippery conditions exist when the road is wet. When applying the crash prevention formula, a driver should be alert, be prepared, and A. Be cautious. B. Act defensively. C. Drive well. D. Act in time. D. Act in time. To avoid a crash caused by motorist error, a driver should apply the crash prevention formula to their driving. When using this formula, a driver should be alert, be prepared, and act in time. The posted speed limit shows A. Only a recommended driving speed. B. The exact speed at which you must travel to avoid a ticket. C. The maximum safe driving speed under ideal road and weather conditions. D. The maximum safe driving speed under all road conditions. C. The maximum safe driving speed under ideal road and weather conditions. A speed limit sign shows the maximum legal driving speed for the stretch of highway where it is posted. Driving safely may require you to travel more slowly than the posted limit. When conditions are less than ideal, drivers should slow down. Which of the following lights indicates that you should slow down and proceed with caution at an intersection? A. A flashing yellow light. B. A flashing red light. C. A solid yellow light. D. A solid red light. A. A flashing yellow light. A flashing yellow traffic light at an intersection indicates that drivers must slow down, proceed with caution, and be prepared to stop. If someone has consumed alcoholic drinks, what will help the person overcome the influence of those drinks? A. Tomato juice and lime. B. Hot coffee. C. Fresh air. D. Only time. D. Only time. Only the passage of time will allow a person to overcome the influence of alcohol. If you need to slow down while driving on a slippery road, the first thing you should do is A. Firmly apply your brakes. B. Take your foot off the gas pedal. C. Apply your parking brake. D. Pump your brakes. B. Take your foot off the gas pedal. To slow down on a slippery road, you should first take your foot off the gas pedal. If you need to slow down even more, gently apply a slow, steady pressure to your brake pedal. At a light rail intersection, always A. Look both ways before crossing tracks. B. Pay attention and obey all traffic signals. C. Share the road with pedestrians and bicyclists. D. All of these. D. All of these. You should never drive around lowered crossing gates. Always look both ways before turning across train tracks and always obey signs and traffic signals. Trains share the road with motor vehicles and bicyclists. If you host a guest who starts driving after consuming too much alcohol at your home, you A. Should follow them in your vehicle to make sure they are safe. B. Should talk with them on the phone until they reach their destination. C. Are no longer responsible for their behavior while drunk. D. May be deemed legally responsible. D. May be deemed legally responsible. If hosting a party and serving alcoholic beverages, it is important that you do not allow any of your guests to drive while under the influence. If a guest drives after consuming too much alcohol at your home, you could become involved in a lawsuit. Signs that are colored orange are A. Work zone signs. B. Regulatory signs. C. School zone signs. D. Guide signs. A. Work zone signs. Highway work zones are established according to the type of work underway along the roadway. Signs in work areas are typically diamond-shaped, orange, have black letters or symbols, and serve as a warning that people are working on or near the highway. If you drink alcohol socially, what helps ensure safe driving? A. Drink coffee before driving. B. Ride home with a friend who has not been drinking. C. Take a cold shower before driving. D. Stop drinking 1/2 hour before driving. While driving on a 2-lane road without bicycle lanes, you encounter a bicyclist traveling in the same direction. What is the safest way to pass the bicyclist? A. Slow down and wait until there is no traffic approaching, then pass the bicyclist while leaving him or her sufficient space. B. Continue driving straight. It is the bicyclist's responsibility to get out of your way. C. Do not pass the bicyclist until you come to a traffic signal or stop sign. D. Honk at the bicyclist to let him or her know you are about to pass. A. Slow down and wait until there is no traffic approaching, then pass the bicyclist while leaving him or her sufficient space. You should pass a bicyclist the same way you would pass any other vehicle, but not so fast or close to them that you throw debris in their face or blow them around with the draft of air from your vehicle. Allow at least 3 feet of space between your side mirror and the bicyclist, or at least 5 feet on higher speed roads or when there is a group of bicyclists. Honking unnecessarily may startle riders and make them more likely to crash. When driving near a blind pedestrian who is carrying a white cane or using a guide dog, you should A. Slow down and be prepared to stop. B. Take the right of way. C. Proceed normally. D. Drive away quickly. A. Slow down and be prepared to stop. When driving near a blind pedestrian who is carrying a white cane or walking with a guide dog, you must slow down, yield the right of way, and then proceed with caution. Be prepared to stop your vehicle in order to prevent injury or danger to the pedestrian. Lanes of traffic moving in opposite directions are divided by fill in the blank lines. A. White. B. Red. C. Black. D. Yellow. D. Yellow. Yellow lines are used to divide traffic moving in opposite directions. You are coming to an intersection with a flashing yellow light. You should A. Stop and wait for the light to change. B. Make a U-turn because the intersection is closed. C. Drive carefully through the intersection. D. Prepare to stop, the light is about to turn red. C. Drive carefully through the intersection. A flashing yellow light means that you should proceed through the intersection slowly and with caution. Scan your eyes across traffic in both directions. Always signal when A. Changing lanes. B. Pulling into or out of a parking space. C. Pulling into traffic from a parking area or alley. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Your turn signals should always be used when you make any movement to the left or right. You should use your signal when pulling into traffic from a curbside parking space, moving into a new lane, or passing another vehicle. This green arrow on a lane use control signal means A. You may use this lane. B. No traffic is allowed in this lane. C. You have the right of way. D. You must merge into this lane. A. You may use this lane. A steady downward green arrow over a traffic lane means you may use the lane indicated. This sign indicates that A. There is a steep hill ahead. B. No trucks are allowed on an upcoming hill. C. A logging road is ahead. D. There are trucks on an upcoming hill. A. There is a steep hill ahead. This sign warns that there is a steep hill or downgrade ahead. Which of the following is true about driving on a wet roadway? A. As you drive faster, your tires become less effective. B. Water does not affect cars with good tires. C. Deep water is less dangerous than shallow water. D. As you decrease your speed, the roadway becomes more slippery. A. As you drive faster, your tires become less effective. The faster you drive on a wet roadway, the less effective your tires will be at wiping the water from the road. If your speed becomes excessive enough, your tires will lose their grip on the road entirely and you will begin to hydroplane, that is, to slide down the road on a film of water. When driving on major highways. A. Stay alert. B. Keep your eyes moving. C. Be ready to react to road hazards. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. It is important to stay alert on highways and be ready to react to unexpected hazards. To avoid highway hypnosis, you should avoid looking at any one thing for more than a few seconds. You are driving on a narrow road when you meet an oncoming vehicle. You must A. Pull completely off the road and stop. B. Allow the oncoming vehicle at least one half of the main traveled portion of the road. C. Demand the other vehicle pull over to make room. D. Turn on your high beam headlights to make sure the other vehicle sees you. B. Allow the oncoming vehicle at least one-half of the main traveled portion of the road. On narrow roads, you must allow vehicles traveling in the opposite direction at least one-half of the main traveled portion of the road. Both vehicles must have adequate space in order for the drivers to safely pass one another. When may you proceed through an intersection that has a stop sign but no stop line or crosswalk? A. After slowing down to verify that there is no cross traffic. B. After coming to a complete stop and verifying that it is safe to proceed. C. After you have stopped at least 20 feet prior to the intersection. D. After slowing down to a speed of 10 miles per hour. B. After coming to a complete stop and verifying that it is safe to proceed. Stop before the stop line or crosswalk at any intersection that is controlled by a stop sign. If there is a stop sign but no stop line or crosswalk, stop before entering the intersection and proceed when it is safe to do so. The correct way to use a freeway exit ramp is to A. Slow down before entering the exit ramp. B. Slow down once moving onto the exit ramp. C. Keep your speed constant once in the exit ramp. D. Pass slower traffic in the exit ramp. B. Slow down once moving onto the exit ramp. When using a freeway exit ramp, do not slow down until you move onto the exit ramp. What should you do when you see this sign? A. Look for a train station ahead. B. Signal before going any further. C. Slow down and yield for trains. D. Stop. C. Slow down and yield for trains. This sign indicates that there is a railroad crossing on the road ahead. You should always slow down when approaching a railroad crossing. Trains cannot yield to cars, so you must let them pass before crossing the tracks. When a traffic signal light turns green, you should A. Yield the right of way to pedestrians. B. Accelerate as quickly as possible. C. Back up slowly. D. Not move until another driver waves you on. A. Yield the right of way to pedestrians. A green light tells you that you can go through the intersection. However, you must first yield the right of way to traffic and pedestrians who are still in the intersection. When driving in fog, A. Use your parking lights. B. Use your low beams. C. Use your high beams. D. It makes no difference which lights you use. B. Use your low beams. You should use low beam headlights when driving in fog, rain, or snow. This road sign means A. Road widens ahead. B. Lane reduction, the right lane ends soon. C. Highway entrance ramp ahead. D. Lane reduction, the left lane ends soon. B. Lane reduction, the right lane ends soon. This sign indicate that the right lane ends ahead. Traffic signals sometimes display arrows to control turns from specific lanes. A solid red arrow, A, is never used as a traffic signal. B, has the same meaning as a circular red traffic light. C, means that drivers may turn in the direction indicated by the arrow. D, means that the traffic the arrow is pointing toward must stop. B, has the same meaning as a circular red traffic light. A solid red arrow in a traffic signal means the same thing as a circular red traffic light. When an arrow is red, traffic in the indicated lane must stop and may not turn in the direction that the arrow is pointing. If you need to drive in foggy weather, A. Turn on your low beam headlights. B. Turn on your hazard lights. C. It is okay to drive at the maximum speed limit. D. Do not drive at a speed above 10 miles per hour. A. Turn on your low beam headlights. You are required to use your headlights during the day when visibility is reduced to 500 feet or less. When you first turn on your headlights, be sure they are adjusted to the low beam setting. Using high beams in fog or rain will cause the light to reflect back into your eyes, lowering visibility even more.